Thank you all for coming today to get an update about the FES Center and the work we've been doing over the past year. So I'm going to go through a lot of the different aspects of the center this afternoon, and if you have any questions along the way, feel free. So I thought I'd start with the basics. What is FES? What is functional electrical stimulation? This is the core of our center. And it's small electrical currents that replace neural activation in individuals that have some kind of neurological disorder. They have an injury or a disease. And if we do it right, FES speaks the language of the nervous system. It has a lot of advantages, some of which are we can precisely target the function that we want and have very few sort of side effects. We can turn it on and off and have almost instantaneous effects. And finally, just about all body functions are either controlled by the nervous system or influenced by the nervous system. So it can be used in many, many different neural injuries and diseases. These could be motor and sensory, somatic functions. They can have direct effects, causing the arm to move, causing the hand to close, or they can have more indirect therapeutic effects, such as on the internal body function or some psychological state. So I have a number of examples up here that illustrate what we use, the kinds of things we use FES for. We've used it a lot to do sort of muscle function. It's used for respiration. It can be used for internal organs, and it can be used in the brain. If there's some kind of a deficit, we can use electrical stimulation to intervene and replace the kind of activation that is expected by those organs to return some semblance of natural function. So how is FES used? So this is a sort of a compilation of the applications of functional electrical stimulation by many groups around the world. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but as you can see, they range all around the body. As I said before, most of the body functions have some relationship to the nervous system. Sight and hearing are things that we do not do to any great extent here in Cleveland, but many of these other applications are things that we do, and I'll talk about them as we go today. And you should keep in mind that there are a number of other phrases that are often used. We use functional electrical stimulation, by which I mean using electrical stimulation of the nervous system. Depending upon the application, there's many other kinds of phrases, but they're all synonyms. They're using electrical stimulation to replace neural function. Okay, so that's the sort of the basics about functional electrical stimulation. So what is the FES Center? How does it play in this field? So first of all, the FES Center is a consortium. So we're funded by the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Rehab Research and Development Service, have been now for 25 years. So they provide the core funding for our center and a critical part of that. However, we have three other partners, Case Western Reserve University, Metro Health Medical Center, and university hospitals that provide other kind of facilities and infrastructure to us. Case is our academic affiliate. There are many people that have academic positions there. A lot of the technical development is done at Case. Metro Health has a very strong rehabilitation activity service. We've been partners with them from the beginning, and we do a lot of the peripheral FES at Metro Health. University Hospitals is a newer partner, just joined last November, and they're more involved in the brain interventions, the deep brain stimulation and some of the other brain interventions that we have in the works. But we're a consortium. The FES Center is the center of that. The FES Center is also people. So we have 68 investigators now. And if you'll note, more than half of them are physician scientists, 36, 45 staff members. So these are our engineers and technicians, clinicians, administrators, professionals in these areas. And we have a significant trainee training mission, educational mission. So we have postdoctoral fellows, a number of PhD students, and MS students. This is kind of the scope of people, a little bit more than probably about 130 people. And one of the newest and perhaps most important people in the FES Center in the last years is Dr. Ron Riechers, who's up front here. If you can stand, Ron, and say hello. So Ron is the new medical director for the FES Center, takes over from Bob Ruff, who served in that capacity for a number of years. Ron is the chief of neurology at the Lewis Stokes VA Medical Center, and not only does he bring his clinical connections and insight, but he's also very interested in us continue our development of polytrauma and traumatic brain interventions for using FES. So welcome, Ron. The FES Center is over, the activities of the FES Center are really sort of guided by the executive committee that you see here. Obviously, Ron is the newest member. Last year there was a silhouette there, Ron, so you filled in nicely. But we have clinicians, we have scientists and engineers from across town who participate in the guidance of the FES Center. Marianne Richmond is the chief of the spinal cord injury unit at the VA. Greg Nemunitis has a similar role at Metro Health Medical Center. Jamie Knutson does most of his work at Metro Health Medical Center. Kevin is kind of mixed, but does a lot of work at Metro as well. Ken is here on the Case campus, as is Cameron. Andy Cornwell was new last year, and he's the Director of Strategic and Industrial Collaborations, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. We also have a higher level council that we use to make sure that we fulfill the needs of our institutional partners and that we get the support that we need. Hunter Peckham, who is here somewhere, there he is, was the founding and longtime director of the FES Center. He is now the chair of the FES Council. But as you can see, we have chiefs of staff at the VA, Murray Altos at Metro, Al Connors. Fred Rothstein is the president of UH, who is on this council as well. Brendan Peterson has a significant role over at Metro Health Medical Center. Mark Chance is the vice dean for research at the School of Medicine, and Jeff Dirk is the dean of engineering. So we have representation from our various member constituencies. We also wouldn't run if we didn't have a great administration group. Cheryl Dudek is the director of operations. Laura Polisek, Mary Bucket, Chris Anielski, you can read the names down here, Marion Washington, Kevin Tuklinski, Erica Woodrum, Amy Hart, and Carrie Karutz basically run the show day to day. They make events like this happen. They helped me put together a number of these slides today. And this was the last one. I had to beg them for one of them. So thank you for your participation in our activities. We've added quite a few new investigators in the last couple years, and I don't think that I had a new investigator slide last year, so I'm making up for it this year. I'm not going to go through all these names, but some of these people are our old friends that we've worked with for a long time and have decided to formally join the FES Center. A number of them, however, are new people that have joined as a result of our outreach into new areas of electrical stimulation. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a while, but these are people that are going to help us expand our scope. I should say are helping us expand our scope. So what's new? This is kind of a preview and maybe a little bit of a look back at what I'm going to be talking about here. So I already talked about Ron. He's new. Our space now in the VA Medical Center is open. We have administrative space there. Thank you, Dr. Peachy. This gives us a home in the medical center and kind of gives us a critical mass. I have Andy's picture here because in the past year we've made major outreach to industrial partners and to some strategic partners, some academic partners. That's Andy's role. And it's something that we've been very effective with in the past year. So if you have an interest in reaching out to industrial partners, Andy's the guy to see. I'll talk about this a little bit more, but we've expanded our research thrusts, again, over the last several years. I'll talk about this in more detail. The main reason I have a nice, cool new slide here for this, though, is that we have to renew our center funding in the next few months. So we're in the middle of writing our proposal, and this is going to be the focus of our research going forward. And as I said, we have a number of new investigators, so things are very vibrant in the FES Center right now. So most of you, many of you anyway, probably think of research when you think of the FES Center, and that's not a mistake. That is our primary mission. And I took our person here, sort of translucent person, and I've removed the things that we do not do here in Cleveland. And there was only a few. You know, most of these things we do. Most of these are people in the FES Center. Some are people that are in the hospitals or in other centers. But I just wanted to impress upon you sort of the center of gravity that we have in terms of electrical stimulation applications. And they range from, you know, peripheral stimulation to cause movement, Parkinson's disease, movement disorders, psychiatric disorders, epilepsy, tactile function, bladder and bowel function, new applications for internal organs and visceral functions. So this is quite a broad spectrum. The FES Center has been and continues to be a major center of gravity for technology development for this field. So this is the network neuroprosthesis, which I think I've introduced last year. This is from Hunter Peckham and Kevin Kilgore and Brian Smith and their team. Imminent implant in a human, in a person. So this is a big step forward. This is a huge enabling technology. So there's the team there. Electrodes and other interfaces of various kinds are also a very regular and ongoing development in Cleveland and in the FES Center. Also modeling and simulation, neuromodeling. This is from Cameron McIntyre. Modeling deep brain stimulation in the brain. And both in terms of looking at what the electrode design should be and what the stimulation parameters should be in order to achieve a certain effect. We also have a long history of doing musculoskeletal modeling to enhance and accelerate the development of FES interventions. So again, the message I want to send is that the expertise of the FES Center is both broad and pretty deep. So the kind of research we do ranges from very basic kind of physiological mechanisms and pathophysiology, motor control modeling and simulation, a lot of things on how to do stimulation properly and effectively and safely, also recording and some of the testing and the interfacing with people that needs to happen for not just, the FES is the interface to the nervous system, but how that FES is delivered is due more to things like the control signals and the outcomes are related to how well that actually works. We do a lot of development as well. So these are research activities, develop electrodes, recording and stimulation devices that are implanted. There's many other other activities that are critical to make these work, new surgical techniques, the rehabilitation training that happens to allow the person to know how to do this and to use it effectively, how to assess, if we want this to ever be accepted in the clinical world, we have to show that it's actually effective in sort of daily life. So we do a lot of systems integration. We take pieces from all these and put them together into overall systems that provide this function, and we work hard to move our work to translate it into commercial products. Applications, I've talked about a little bit, but we do a lot of first-in-human kind of feasibility testing. It's a fairly unique capability that we have. We do many different kinds of applications, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. So many of the applications that we've done to date have had to do with musculoskeletal stimulation to restore movement, standing and walking, work by Ron Triolo, grasping, arm function, Hunter and Kevin and some of mine, respiration, and that continues unabated. In fact, it's really will be reinvigorated by this new technology. But we do have some new emerging applications that I just want to highlight. First of all, in our renewal, we'll have something called homeostasis. And this is going to be one of our thrusts, and it's really to stimulate the autonomic nervous system and various visceral functions. The things that happen that you don't even know happen, digestion and insulin release and inflammatory responses. As you can see, just about every organ in the body responds to the autonomic nervous system, and we can stimulate that very precisely to make things right. We have all the tools to do this. It's peripheral nervous system interventions in many cases. We know how to do that. We're looking for collaborators to help us with the sort of the clinical and physiological side of this. Neuropsychiatry is a pretty rapidly expanding and a huge clinical issue. There are a lot of sort of ethical issues with this, but nonetheless, it's gaining a lot of acceptance, and this is going to be a new focus area for us as well. This is a deep brain stimulation illustration. It's been used for depression, for example. So there are a lot of other additional applications that we're pursuing. Again, by talking to clinicians, we've talked to psychiatry service at the VA, we've talked to people at university hospitals. And the third new area is not necessarily a new area, it's pain mitigation. The idea of using stimulation of the spinal cord to mitigate pain was actually invented in Cleveland. Tom Mortimer, who's an old colleague, did this as his PhD dissertation in the 60s. It's fairly similar now than it was then, and we have a number, Scott Lemke and others, that are working to improve and relieve the pain, but also get rid of the side effects that often come with the stimulation. Kevin Kilgore has developed, and Niloy Badra, have developed a whole new technology that doesn't activate the nervous system, it deactivates it. It blocks the nerve impulses. And this is an application for pain following amputation, but there's many other applications for pain, for the autonomic functions that I talked about, for things like spasticity, where you want to block unwanted activation. Okay. So this is our plan moving forward. It's been evolving over the past couple of years, but this is what we're going to lay out in our proposal, which is due in February, so it's pretty far advanced by now. With the FES Center kind of at the hub here, we have 5 thrust areas. Technology and tools involves things like electrical stimulation technology, electrodes, but it also involves things like modeling and simulation. Brain and mind include sort of things that we've worked on for a while, stroke, but also traumatic brain injury, psychiatry, brain-computer interfacing, and epilepsy. Homeostasis includes all these internal body functions that I talked about. And it will involve sort of collaborations with urology, physiology, pulmonary care, many other sort of clinical services. Pain, I just talked about. We have good relationships with the pain service at the VA and elsewhere with the Cleveland Clinic and with a number of industrial partners who have pain as the #1 application of neurostimulation commercially and clinically. So the industrial partners are particularly interested in improving and expanding this. And finally, and certainly not least, is movement restoration. This is our bread and butter. This is what we're known for. And we'll continue to work with orthopedic, spinal cord injury services, respiratory departments, et cetera. Okay, so the research sort of vision of the center has expanded somewhat. At the center, though, is a lot of commonality. So it's not a lack of focus. We all use electrical stimulation. We all use it to stimulate the nervous system to mitigate various kinds of pathologies. We use similar tools. We use similar processes, by which I mean engineers and scientists work together with clinicians to identify clinical needs, to develop interventions that can help with those clinical needs, and we partner with our therapists to make sure that we implement this correctly, that we assess the outcomes correctly. So these are all common. What's different are typically the clinical groups that we're collaborating with, and the physiology is somewhat different as well. Okay. So that's the research thrust. So for the investigators, this is the kind of thing that we do every day. The FES Center does provide a lot of services to the investigator and to the community. So we nurture a community. We provide global leadership in neurostimulation. We're well known around the country and around the world for our activities. We provide a community to all of you, to the I say, eminent and cross-disciplinary group of investigators. We have people from many walks of life who come together and really make things happen. So we provide that sort of hub, that sort of focus. And finally, we do try to provide value to you as investigators and to our partners, the university case and the hospitals.
The FES Center has a range of expertise, as we've been discussing, in science, engineering. We've been successful, I think, because most of our projects have a very clear goal in mind, a clinical goal.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
And I think it's just important for us to remember that has been our strength, that focus on finding clinical solutions through technology. It's really the areas of application that have expanded tremendously.
A lot of my research is using sensory stimulation. So for example, we try to restore bladder function, which can have a devastating effect on individuals.
In stroke, we have the opportunity to encourage neuroplasticity for the brain to regain control of the lower limb function or hand function.
As far as the research I'm doing, there's really two areas. One is the hand function for spinal cord injured patients. The other area is a much newer area, using electrical currents to block nerve conduction. So
we not only activate the nervous system, now we can deactivate it for things like pain and spasticity and other unwanted activities. The FES Center has been especially in the peripheral nervous system for several decades and has a worldwide reputation here.
Over the last decade or so, basic neuroscience has provided us with a template of understanding the networks of neurons that we're interacting with in a way that we just didn't understand before. And this is very exciting, new, really groundbreaking science that's now having opportunities for direct clinical application.
It's been a long road. It's a lot of work to get from the point of things scribbled on napkins to an FDA-approved device that can be put into humans.
A hallmark of our research activities has been collaboration. We've always had teams of whatever the mix of expertise was needed in order to address the clinical problem at hand.
The industrial collaborations, I think, making sure that the research we're doing is relevant to the medical device industry and the rapidly growing neuromodulation industry.
None of us possesses all the knowledge that we need to get the best outcome for our patients. We all have to work with other people that have other expertise besides ourselves, and we work together to come up with the best possible solutions for patients.
So collaborations like this between clinicians and engineers really require communication and an understanding how to speak different languages to ultimately serve the final mission, which is to help our patients.
All of us are here because we're interested in helping people.
For me, the best thing is being able to evaluate a patient for the first time, someone who's been injured for 10 or 20 years and thought they were basically at the end of what medical treatment can offer. And we have something that really goes beyond that and is very practical for me.
That's really the motivation for everyone in the FES Center, is to find ways to help veterans get their lives back to where they want them to be.
A number of us here in the center, we moved to Cleveland because we want to help people. We want to have a chance that the work we do can actually end up in a device that can help a number of people, not just the people that we see in our own labs. And I think that's what motivates us in the work we do.
So like to thank our friends from Impact Communications for putting that together. That's the executive committee sitting around talking about the mission of the FES Center. I hope it was instructive. So I'm not going to go through this list, but people ask me, yeah, but you guys are a center, but what do you actually do? And so these are the things that we actually do. We have people like Ron Riechers who are helping us make connections to the clinical world. We do feasibility studies in people. We partner with industrial collaborators. We have internal grant reviews, and we do concept reviews to help hone our research ideas. We have a medical illustrator. We have a statistical consultant. We host meetings. Our staff has hosted several has helped us organize several meetings. We have a website that I'll show in a second. We have various mechanisms to help young investigators build their careers. We help sort of grease the skids between the institutions. Many of us that we're all around town, and yet we share staff sometimes. We move money back and forth, and this happens most of the time below the radar. And we provide a lot of service to the veterans, to institutional members, the hospitals and the university, and to our community. One of the things that we do, and we've done very successfully for a number of years, is the Neuroprosthesis Seminar Series. We've had quite a few very eminent external and one internal. Jeff Capadona is one of our own, but the rest of the speakers have been from around the country. They speak on topics that sometimes are right in our wheelhouse and sometimes push the envelope a little bit. They're on the outskirts of what we would normally do, and it helps us keep kind of a fresh mind. We always do this in conjunction with another partner. We do this sometimes with the APT Center and the Cleveland Clinic, Metro Health, University Hospitals, et cetera. So we partner with them to bring their community together with ours on a relatively regular basis. I want to point out our webpage, which is continually improved. I don't know, is this video on here now, Cheryl?
No, not yet.
But if you want to see the video again, it will be up there. But there's a lot of useful information there other than sort of our faces. We have descriptions of our research programs. If people from the outside might want to participate in these, they can read about them. We have news, about what's happening in the community. We have videos. Each investigator will describe their work in plain terms. So there's a tremendous amount of information on our website, and it's very easy to remember, fescenter.org. Okay, so we have a lot of individual contributions from the investigators, from our staff, and I just want to recognize some of them. And if you don't see yourself here, you have to let us know. We try very hard, but it's hard to capture everybody. So first of all, Pat Cragol, thank you very much for, Pat just retired and was promoted to emeritus professor, spent 38 years contributing to our community, so thanks, Pat. We have a number of investigators who received awards from the American Spinal Cord Injury Association. Hunter Peckham received a Lifetime Achievement Award. That's quite special, Hunter. Thank you. Ann Bryden is the Nielsen Award from Asia. Congratulations, Ann. Yep. Greg Nemunitis was elected to the board of directors. Is Greg here? No, I didn't think I saw him. So thanks, congratulations, Greg. Yeah. Yep, there's more. So Hunter Peckham, again, received the Medal for Health Science Innovation in the medical school. This is quite a big honor. It's given each year. So congratulations, Hunter. And Bryden again. So Therapy Leadership Council, she received the Distinguished Clinician Award. So congratulations, Ann. Ela Plow, Conquer Paralysis Now, Crossover Award. John Lewandowski. Is John here? Oh, sorry. So John, from the Materials Society, received their Leadership Award. And I know I saw Dustin. I don't know, is Matt Schieffer here? Oh, there he is. So Matt and Dustin have had a couple of major publications and included in a very distinguished textbook. So congratulations to the two of you. So, sorry, I didn't make this slide. Cheryl did. So we had a couple people that are in leadership positions. John Che. Is John here? I think he's probably too important for us now. John is a very... Oh, okay. John has risen through the ranks quite well and has a number. He's the medical director for the musculoskeletal service line, which is a big thing at Metro Health. He's also won the award for excellence in post-acute stroke from the American Congress of Rehabilitation Medicine and the National Stroke Association. And he's the president-elect of the Association of Academic Physiatrists. So this is really good for our community and for John. I've been the chair for a while, but I was actually formally appointed the Alan H. and Constant T. Ford Professor and Chair of Biomedical Engineering at Case in the past year. Yep. The Institute for Functional Restoration is a very important partner of ours. It's led by Hunter Peckham and Megan Moynihan. And they're trying to serve smaller clinical populations with FES that probably are not financially viable for companies. And so they've won an important award from the Craig H. Nielsen Foundation with Synapse Biomedical. They received a commercialization partnership to move this one step closer. So congratulations. We've had many new awards in the past year. We're just highlighting 4 of them here. Dennis Bourbeau received funding from the VA. Kevin Kilgore from NIH and INDS. Kingman Stroll from SPARC is a NIH initiative that's focused on these autonomic functions. And so that's a nice foray for us. And Dustin Tyler received quite a large award from DARPA to restore sensation in people with amputations. So congratulations to all of you. It's kind of a sprinkling of the awards over the last year. So a few things about our outreach. As I said before, we've organized 3 meetings, or we've participated in the organization of 3 meetings of the past year. Hunter Peckham and other members of the local National Academy of Engineering and National Academy of Science have came together, to organize a conference on concussion, which was downtown at the conference center and was quite a huge success. It's a very timely topic. Byron Marcellet organized rehabilitation in the 21st century, which was held here near the Case campus. And a whole bunch of people, I know Ken and Dustin and people from a number of other universities came together again. Is this the third Cleveland Neural Engineering Workshop? Oh, I guess it says it right there. This is really a workshop. It's not a conference. It's a discussion, and it's really looking forward. It's a great contribution to the field. So these are things that our staff has done kind of the lion's share of this work, so thank you very much. Our staff, our investigators, the students, they reach out in many ways into the community as well. I list just a few of these things here. Buckeye PVA games, we participate in Case's Research Showcase, Great Lakes Science Center, number of outreach to high schools, and one of the local television channels has a health and wellness expo. Metro Health has an annual spinal cord injury forum that we participate in. Sue Fuhr here is the director of the VA Medical Center. We've participated in a number of tours when they have dignitaries tour the facility. Research Week, a number of other. Leon Bibb visited. This is one of Dustin's participants. Kevin Kilgore. So This was one of the craziest things I ever heard of, Kevin, but it's worked out fabulously. So Metro Health had a competition they basically make a proposal from individuals to make an impact on the community. Kevin's idea was to buy a property next to Metro and renovate it for people that would come and stay there, have this be wheelchair accessible and accessible, disabled accessible for patients that visit Metro Health for research purposes. So they don't have to stay in the hospital, they can stay in a house that's really outfitted perfectly for them. And not only did he win the $100,000 award, but a donor gave another $500,000. So Kevin, this is really fantastic. That's what it looks like now, but I understand it. It's not going to look like that. It's going to be new. Okay. Maybe I think this is the last service thing. So this is something that Andy Cornwell has sort of taken the lead on from us. A kind of a grassroots engineering group has developed, the Med Dev Cleveland, around the people that are in the local companies that develop medical devices, to build a community of engineers. Andy came to me a while back with Jonathan Sakai, who's one of the other organizers, really the original organizer. And we support this, and just last week or this week? Last week was the third get-together, and I don't know, they capped out at the maximum attendance, like 100, I think, right? So it's been very successful, and we're sort of trying to promote the development of a local engineering industry here in town, or in the region, really. Okay, so every year we recognize one particular individual, and that's Jim Jatich, who was a long-term research participant, in particular in Hunter's research program, who passed away several years ago. And we've created an award in his honor. It's called the James W. Jatich Memorial Award. And Jim was the kind of guy that would come no matter what. He would come all the time. He was he was part of the team, you know, and always here. His family always made sure he got there. And so this award is intended to recognize the participants who have that same sort of spirit, the pioneering spirit, to maybe help themselves a little bit, but primarily to help the people that are to come. So this year's award winner is Ronald Lew. So Ron Lew has been a participant in the lower extremity FES program here in Cleveland for more than 30 years. Started off in Byron Marcellet's study. And Byron, if you wouldn't mind saying a few words about Ron.
Following his complete thoracic 7 spinal cord injury, Dr. Lew was told that he would never walk again. He answered back, "You're totally wrong. I will walk again." Well, he not only walked again with the help of the percutaneous stimulation system, but continued to do so for over 30 years. We are proud to have him as a subject and a colleague, and thank him for his major contributions in the development of FES-assisted mobility.
Thank you, Byron. Unfortunately, Ron is out of town visiting his family, and apparently he was quite taken aback and happy to win this award, and we'll present it to him in another forum in person. Okay, so now just a little business. I'd like to talk a little bit about the funding trends. A lot of our work depends on federal funding in particular. So this is if of course you remember this slide from last year, but it has one extra point on it now. And this is the VA funding for medical and prosthetics research. So this is the Department of Veterans Affairs over all of their activity over from 2011 to 2016. And I think the green line is, I don't think, the green line is the actual funds, you know, the dollar amount. And if you normalize it to 2011, you see what's in red, inflation adjusted. And I think the thing you should notice is it's pretty constant, right? There's a little bit of an uptick in the actual but the inflation adjusted actually declined a little bit. There's some potentially good news on the horizon for this year. The projected budget is going to have a fairly big increase for recent years. You know, this is what was on the webpage now, but there's a budget deal in the works. Who knows what that'll be? But this is what the request to the president was. So there's no big, giant, catastrophic declines, and in fact, some sign that it increases. I actually blew this up a little bit so you can see the trend. So the actual would jump up a fair amount. We've had some decline in the inflation adjusted, but little hook right here last year, and then maybe a bigger hook this year. So that's the VA. This is overall NIH. So this is all the institutes. It goes way back to 1995, and it sort of normalizes the inflation adjusted by 1995, which is a long time ago. But you can see that the actual dollars that NIH, except for a little blip here, have actually gone up, you know, in the late 90s very fast, and then more recently a little slower, but it has been an upward trend. The proposed budget increase from the president is again a little bit higher than last year. If you look at inflation-adjusted funds, first of all, it's not as impressive, but you should note that even adjusting for inflation, we're still quite a bit higher than we were in 1995. And it probably won't make a big difference this year in terms of the inflation-adjusted amount. It'll be similar. So the funding, there is some discussion of a supplement, 21st Century Cures or something like that, a bill that's working its way through. I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be for $10 billion extra dollars for NIH. In terms of the individual institutes, again, I think the descriptor here is pretty flat over time. I added a couple this year. The success rate, if you feel like it's a little bit harder to get funded, it is a little bit harder. It's not again, not catastrophically harder. You know, these are the same NINDS, NICHD, and NIBIB. These are the typical NIH institutes. So things are a little bit lower, but it's not terrible. And number of proposals has crept up a little bit again, though not, except NIH or NINDS did go up a fair amount. The other ones are a little bit smaller. So there's a little more competition, there's more proposals. The success rate then goes down because the funding is relatively static. Okay, so I think again, for the coming year, there is some hope that the research budgets will go up, but at least it'll be steady. In terms of the FES Center funding trends, so these are research funds that the investigators have gone out and been awarded, have won. So, the FES Center, I like to think that we help in significant ways here, but this is really what the investigators do. So we have $17.1 million in total funding. A little more than half of that comes from the National Institutes of Health, about a quarter from the VA. The DOD has jumped up quite a bit in recent years. It's about 13%. And then we have foundations, which is 3%, and then a variety of other sources. So we're working to increase the size of the VA pie here a little bit, but this is the current mix. How does that compare with the past? So there were some lean years where then we've picked back up. We've basically recovered back to where I think this might have been our peak year for funding, and we're almost back to that amount. Our hit rate on proposals is quite high. So these are different agencies, the VA, NIH, DOD, et cetera. And overall, we have a 56% hit rate, which is really fabulous. Okay, so this is 34 submitted, 19 funded. Really did very well at NIH. Not quite as good at the VA, but we're working on that. So I think the message here is that we do these concept reviews, we do internal proposal reviews. They're having some impact. We collaborate with each other. I can have experts on my team that help raise up the likelihood that something is going to be viewed in a positive way by the reviewers. Okay, so I took this slide directly from last year, and I thought it's a good one. So the message on research and what you should be doing. First of all, there is research funding available. You have to look for it. So answer the door when the big bag of money knocks. The funding agencies are looking for innovation and sort of bold new things. They're not looking for you just to keep renewing the same work over and over. So be bold. See, it's even all capital. You know, I like this cartoon. It says the apple's falling. It says the law of gravity. That's a high impact paper. An orange falls, and the guy's thinking, oranges also follow the law of gravity. That's a low impact paper, right? That's sort of a, I can do that too kind of a paper. We want to avoid those. Think about how you can use your basic skills in new ways. So I talked a little bit about the sort of the autonomic and visceral stimulation. We already know how to do the stimulation. You know, we have devices, we have electrodes. You know, we know how to do that. We know how to do surgical procedures. What we don't know necessarily is the physiology of the spleen, or, you know, I'm sorry if somebody knows that, but I don't. But that's where you find a new collaborator. But we have these basic skills that can be used in many different ways. The other thing is, I say be strategic here, and what does society want and expect? You know, when the NIH study section that I'm on, for 2 months before we have our meeting, the organizer sends out emails that say, the order of importance of review is significance, 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 and then everything else. So the NIH and other agencies are looking for the work to have an impact, not just because you're curious about something. So, you know, take a look and see what does society expect from us? And finally, collaborate. So we have this giant community in Cleveland that includes the FES Center. We have experts from many walks of life, and we can do great things together that you can't do alone. And so use these your colleagues. There are also many of us have collaborations externally with other universities, other companies, research organizations. They also, similarly, they bring expertise that maybe we don't have in our community. And we can use that to do, big new things. Think especially about industrial partners. So I have a slide about this. So we hired Andy Cornwell a couple of years ago to be the organizer, to be the person doing the outreach to industrial partners. And this is for funded research, for partnering on a big new trend in federal funding is that they want industrial academic partnerships. Industry has a lot to offer. They have capacities that we could never pay for in an academic setting. However, they also have to sort of hit a bottom line every quarter or their stockholders revolt. That kind of risk, on new things is exactly what we do. That's the innovation. That's the creativity. So it's a great partnership if we compare with industrial partners. And we're doing this, okay? This is a real thing. We have ongoing discussions with a number of different industrial partners. Some of them are well beyond discussions, and we're actually implementing them. So if you want to talk to, if you're interested in participating in an industrial collaboration, Andy's right there. He's the guy to see, okay? Cameron McIntyre is the associate director on our executive committee, also has huge connections in the medical device industry, very, very effective liaison if you're looking to do this kind of stuff. Okay, we're also looking to expand our clinical partnerships. We've been working very hard, Cheryl and I and Ron and others over the past 6 months where we've, our last year, I think we had, I don't know how many investigators. We had like 50 investigators and 25 were clinicians. We now have 36 clinical investigators. So this has been a major sort of initiative. We're trying, if you're familiar with these kinds of diagrams, we're trying to take our ideas into standard of care, clinical standard of care, ultimately. And there's many steps along the way and many pathways. And so we have the capability to do that. We can partner to make that happen. Okay. So what's the state of the FES Center? Well, I think it's really good. We have a lot of things that are on the upswing. Our funding is up. The number of investigators is higher. The kinds of things that we're doing are expanding. So I think the outlook is very good. You know, I think in terms of accomplishments, we do have global leadership in academic neurostimulation research. We have great partners that benefit us, and we also benefit them. Our research funding is strong. Our outreach into the community is strong. Our outreach into industrial partners is strong. We're now better integrated into the VA with our administrative site being there. We have this expanded research scope. But that's not the end. We have many opportunities. We're still looking to add more institutional partners. We have new technology, Hunter's Network Neuroprosthesis, that will be coming into clinical use in the next few months. Like I said, we had all these new applications for neurostimulation, this big outreach to industry, and federal funding opportunities are actually quite good right now for in our field. There's things that have to do with, the brain initiative, which have to do with more than just the brain, but we have the Spark and electrics, which are more autonomic things. There's many opportunities if we can get the right teams together and work together. Okay, so that's it. I've featured our participants in the last slide. Thank you all for coming. So before I stop talking, though, I have two things. We're going to get a photograph of everyone. I think we're going to try in here first. Is that right? And then afterwards, there's a reception outside. So please stay here, and we'll get a photograph together. And then please join us at the reception. And thank you.